What's good? Today I am still in the studio, just at a slightly different angle. I'm starting to like how the colors, shaping up. So yeah, I'm slowly but surely leaning towards, just focusing on video at this point. I'll take the audio and just snap it onto the voice note group because it is important, and I do engage mainly on WhatsApp. But I think for the most part, this video format works really well. Anyway. In my, I don't want to say old age, I'm really not that old, but in my years, it's funny how lessons, how we come about the lessons that we do. One that I learned not too long ago was like, we are all so hung up on getting the thing that we want and then learning the lesson that we didn't really need it in the beginning. We kind of want the money, or we want the fame, or we want the opportunities so that we can realize that we actually didn't really need them to begin with to get fulfillment in what we were doing. That is such I would have never thought that I would have ever said that. But it's popping up more and more now as I'm having more and more time to work on stuff, develop stuff, get opportunities, earn this, do that, get into this space, and realize that some of the things that I thought were quite important to me, they weren't really that important to me, and I didn't really need them to begin with. So I see it. I really enjoy seeing. It's usually in superhero movies, but I'm the only one that I can read that really pops to mind right now is anime. There's a series called Bleach. And at some point in the story, there's a small spoiler, but this thing is so old. I mean, come on. If you haven't watched it, you're not going to watch it. At some point, the guy loses his powers. The main character loses his abilities that he's had for quite some time. He now doesn't have them. So he kind of has to, he goes through this whole process of looking within to figure out how he's going to get these abilities back. But in doing that, he realizes that he was, his bravery and his ability to work through the hardships that he had, the superpowers were only a supplement to his ability to deal with all those problems. He didn't need the superpowers, although they helped him get through a lot of his issues. So that's sort of how I think we get, when we're working on music, and with everything actually. We want the features. I mean, I've got many stories about how I either paid for features or I wanted a specific feature, so I'd hit a person up and not phone them, but I'd text them and email them and try and get a hold of them to try and get that feature. But it was all like I didn't need it at that point in time, but I really wanted it. And in some cases I did get it, and the result was never what I thought it would be. So I'd pay for the feature, get the feature, think that this song would be the one to, push me forward, but it never was. Then years would go by. The person I paid for the feature would somehow end up on one of my songs by, this is just how the universe works. And that song would do a lot better. Or it would just be another thing like, I didn't really need that feature to even begin with, right? Same with certain opportunities. You look at an opportunity and you're like, I want to be in that record label, or I want to get that sort of funding, or I want to get that sort of video out there. You do it, you get the product, you put it out, and it doesn't work the way that you think it's going to work. So how do we work around this? Because it's easy to say that you don't need stuff, especially when you've already had it. They say you never really know what it is that you need or not need, something along those lines. But basically people then say, let me cry in my Ferrari. I'd rather cry in my Ferrari than be happy in a Taz or a Honda. Just insert whatever car you want there. And I mean, I believe it too. Let me rather cry in my Ferrari. But you get to that point, you realize that all that time, all that energy, all that stuff that you use, I won't say wasted. You didn't waste any of that time, because now you've learned a very valuable lesson. But all of that leading up to it, you realize that the thing you wanted is not the thing you'll get out of that. You'll get other things. You get money, you get options, but it won't necessarily make you happy. You get into a record label, you might get the PR and promotion, but it might not make you famous. It might not give you the opportunities for you to make the money you wanted to. So there's always this thing where, you'll get what you want, but you won't get it the way that you wanted it. It's weird. It's very strange how things work. So my prescription for that, and something that's really sort of lightened the load off of my shoulders, has been to look at each situation and think to myself, what do I want out of this situation? So me doing, all of this stuff, me buying whatever it is, lights, or me starting voiceover, what do I want out of it? All right. I then set that as my goal or my destination, and then I leave it. At that point, what I then do is I write down a bunch of things that I can do happily on a day-to-day basis that make me happy internally, and I can keep on working on those things. So it might be me taking on more jobs, taking on more challenging jobs with the clients that I have. It might be me working with particular people, getting a particular piece of equipment, or upgrading my setup so that it can, cater to the work that I'm doing. And those are my day-to-day goals. Those are the little things that I want to improve upon. I want to get really, really good at maybe impersonating a certain accent, or being able to work in a certain way, and those become my day-to-day struggles, my day-to-day challenges that I can face, and that's where I'll derive my satisfaction and my fulfillment in those day-to-day activities. Because it's only through doing that are you able to stack up the days. Because if you're stacking up the days and you're like, look, I want my goal at the end of it, you're going to start doing things on a day-to-day basis that you're going to regret. Instead of you grinding it out and figuring out how to build the website, you might use the money that you might not have had to pay someone a huge amount of money to make a website that you actually didn't really need at that point in time. All right. Whereas what you could do is you could spend that time, read up about it, research it, take the time out to actually try and build one yourself, enjoy the process of challenging yourself to build the best website that you can create. Create it, realize that you actually enjoy creating websites, that you don't enjoy creating websites, and then make your move based on that. So it's almost like create your goal and move towards it, but get lost in the things that you are doing to get towards the goal. The goal is down there. These are the day-to-day activities. Get lost in this. Do this stuff to the best of your ability. That stuff, you've set your goal already. Forget about it. It's there. You've done what you need to do. You need to focus on what's going on here, on the day-to-days. Get lost in this. Become really, really good at what you're doing, Develop mastery. Because in you doing this, that one time that you do look up, you realize the goal's there in the distance, you'll look down, continue working. All of a sudden, the goal is right here in your face. And you're like, oh my gosh, where did all the time go? I was enjoying this process so much. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to keep on doing it. You look down again. Then you realize that the goal is right here in front of you and you've completed it. You've done what you need to do. At that point, you can set yourself another goal and again, get lost in what you're doing. So that when you eventually reach whatever endpoint it is that you think you're going to reach, you're already fulfilled. You're good. You're not fulfilled by the fact that you're at the end and you've got all the money, you've got all the opportunities, you're in the record label, whatever. You are happy with, this process that you're going through. I've seen artists who are very unhappy being artists. They're very unhappy they're struggling artists, or they are artists in the grind and the hustle of today who are very unhappy being in the hustle and the grind of today. They want to be in tomorrow's grind already. So they start making moves as though they are trying to, they're pushing for tomorrow's grind instead of looking at their situation right now and making the most of it. So as an artist, or as a music producer, as a sound engineer, whatever you are, if your goal is to cultivate a really, really strong, connected fan base, focus on that. Because you should have at least 10 people who listen to your music. Focus on those 10 people. Call them when you can. Text them when you can. Get involved in their situation as much as you can. And build with those people as well as you can. Treat them like, they are your people right now. Focus on them. Get lost in them. What do they want to hear? They like that other track. What about this track? What if I mess with this genre? What if I start tweaking with these sounds? Get lost in your people that you have right here, right now. And then what you're going to see is that because you're not looking out there to see where you can go collect another 100,000 followers, people will start to gravitate towards you, because people are going to look and be like, yo, it's vibrant here. I like this space. I like this community. I like this space that's being built up here. I want to be a part of this. 10 will turn into 15. Don't worry about that. Just cater to those 15. 5 people. Great. Come here. We're going to make more music together. I'm going to listen to your input, and I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep making videos for you. I'm going to keep moving. 15 becomes 30 all of a sudden. All of a sudden, you're like, hey, there's 30 people here. So what? We're going to rock. There's 30 of us now. Let's do our thing. Get lost in what you're doing here. Because then 30 will become 60. 60 becomes 120. 240. All of a sudden, you've got 240 people. 240 people won't fit in this space. That's a lot of people. But then what do people do? They're like, no, man, it's not a lot of views. It's not 2,000 views. Of course, you're going to want more views. But don't think about it like that, because you're going to do stupid things like paying for fake views, making songs that cater to getting more views. Your mind you start thinking about all those other things out there, and then the people that are here are like, but what about us? You're not really catering to us anymore. And you forget about what you've already cultivated up to this point. So focus on what you're doing here. And if you love it and you can get lost in it, everything that's happening out there doesn't matter. And as those opportunities and as those all those things, as they come closer towards you, you'll be able to reach out and grab them when the time is right. But you'll then start to realize that you don't have to reach out and grab them, because you never really needed them to begin with. You were rocking with your fans and you were having a good time, regardless of whether it was 30 or 6,000. And that's just the beauty of it. Because the other thing is that if you focus too much on what's out there, you might get it, but it will very quickly disappear. Look at anything in life. People who get record deals way too early, they get the money, they squander it. People who win the lottery, they get the money, they squander it more often than not. And it's a sad process. It's like I thought about something this morning, where if you woke up and you had the ideal body that you wanted, say you wanted maybe to be a bit more buff, or you wanted to be a bit more skinny, or whatever it was that you wanted, your goal body. If you woke up tomorrow morning and you got it, you would have achieved your goal in essence, right? But would you be able to maintain it? You wouldn't know what it took to get to that point. So you don't know how little you need to eat. You don't know how much you need to be in the gym. You don't know what sort of practices you need to follow. Do I need to be sleeping earlier? Do I need to be sleeping less? Do I need to be drinking more caffeine? Do I need to be having more sugar, less protein, more carbohydrates? You don't know what you need to do to maintain that thing. So very quickly, your ideal body will very quickly turn to mush, and it's not going to make sense anymore. So for the most part, get lost in what you're doing right now. Get in there, talk to your people, figure out what it is that you want, and just get lost in it, because that's where the real magic is. Yeah. Peace.